What's up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 319 of the Smart Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango, and this is the Hot Tags edition of the week, where I'll be breaking down some of the current events, rumors, news, gossip, and whatever the hell else went down in the world of professional wrestling over the past couple of days that I feel like it is relevant to talk about. And unfortunately, not too much going down over these past couple of days. Just 4 stories to talk about today, and one of them is actually an incomplete story, and 2 others are unknowns. So, not the biggest addition to the hot tags, but if you stay tuned, I'm sure there's going to be some more information later on throughout the week. And if anything else happens, then we'll try to add on more to that at the end of the next hot tags or something like that. But we do still have a couple things to talk about here, and we might as well just get the ball rolling with one of the rumor ones. That is that Serena Deeb possibly could be returning to WWE in some capacity, either on the Raw, SmackDown, or NXT side of things. She was a part of the Mae Young Classic earlier this year. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's January 9th. Earlier this year, in the last 8 days. Earlier in 2017, when they did that tournament. And despite how, at least in my point of view, she wasn't one of the ones that stood out compared to a lot of the other ones, like Jazzy Gabert and Mercedes Martinez and Candice LeRae and all that, although we do have a little bit more information that Candice LeRae might possibly be into the company, a little bit more, hopefully on that in the future. But despite how she didn't really make that much of an impression on me, it seems like she might have made enough of an impression with the brass in WWE and could be returning. If you have been following WWE for the past, God knows how many years, I believe it was in 2009, Serena Deeb was on the SmackDown roster with CM Punk. She was part of that whole straight edge society kind of angle, and she fucked it all up because her whole entire gimmick was that she used to be a drinker and wasn't drinking anymore, and she got caught getting plastered at a bar and really kind of ruined the whole idea behind that. So they fired her, and now she spent a bunch of years on the indie scene and have seemingly worked her way back up into good graces. And if they are more confident that she can be some kind of a valuable asset, then maybe they'll just kind of boost her straight up to the main roster, kind of like what they did with Mickie James. But she's no Mickie James, so you can't really compare the two of them. James is a former multi-time champion. Serena is kind of just sort of like a footnote in the history of the women's evolution and stuff. So I don't know if that's really the smartest move to make, but I'm not the one making the calls. And if she does come into WWE, then you know that this rumor turned out to be true, but it's also a possibility that the rumor is completely false, because we hear this kind of stuff all the time, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. So stay tuned for some possible future stuff on that in 2018, but I wouldn't really hold your breath too much on that being a guarantee. We have some injury stuff to talk about. That's what the thumbnail is indicating. Samoa Joe suffered an injury for his foot on Monday Night Raw this week, yesterday, compared to where I'm recording right now. And the news is not necessarily bad, not necessarily good, of course, and nobody wants to get an injury and stuff, and I'm sure it's going to hinder him in some capacity, but it's not being, explained as being horrible yet, which I guess you can kind of look on the bright side of things. There's a possibility that he doesn't make the Royal Rumble, or at least that he doesn't get a chance to wrestle too much on the Monday Night Raws leading up to it over the next couple of weeks. But we do know that he's been pulled from the Mixed Match Challenge, and that's particularly interesting because he was supposed to be winning that poll to be Bayley's other tag team partner. He didn't get a chance to do that anymore, so Elias backs him up and becomes the person that takes that spot. And if they are feeling confident enough that Samoa Joe shouldn't be able to wrestle on the Mixed Match Challenge, that means that there's definitely a possibility that he doesn't make the Royal Rumble. If he doesn't make the Royal Rumble, I don't think that's going to change the Royal Rumble plans all that much, but he did talk about how he was going to fight John Cena, and if that's any indication, usually in the future, that means either Cena and he will have a big program leading up until WrestleMania, or they'll actually be fighting at WrestleMania. If you look in the two scenarios, let's look at it from the short term. If he is supposed to be eliminating John Cena from the Royal Rumble, and that's supposed to start off something that's going to lead up until WrestleMania, then that's a problem. If he doesn't make the Royal Rumble, he's not going to be able to do that. And obviously he won't be able to continue that program, and it won't have the same amount of flair and everything like that. But if he's supposed to be a part of just a match against John Cena at WrestleMania, they can figure out other ways to get the two of them to start working a program together. It doesn't have to be that one of them eliminates the other one at the Royal Rumble. The downside to it is it's yet another thing that hinders Samoa Joe one way or another. And if they find out that he actually has like a pretty serious foot injury, who knows? He might actually be out of WrestleMania as well. It's a couple months down the line, and you got to assume that he probably is going to be okay if they keep him off his feet and they keep him in a boot or whatever else that they need to necessarily do for the recovery time. But who knows? The recovery time for these things could be 2 weeks or it could be 11 months. You don't really know exactly what it is. He heard a pop in his foot, and that's really all that we have to go by. And I don't know a goddamn thing about medicine, so I can't tell you what the hell that means, but it's certainly not a good thing. Your foot should not be popping. And if you know anybody that has any kind of feet that pop, maybe their last name is Redenbacher. I don't know. Two other stories to talk about here. One of them is a see it or skip it type of thing. The latest thing on the WWE Network was another edition of Straight to the Source with Corey Graves, and this edition was with Enzo Amore, which I thought was pretty interesting, and I recommend that you check it out, but I recommend that you check it out if you want to see more of Enzo being Enzo. If that bugs the hell out of you, skip it, because he's Enzo the entire time. If Enzo really is like this on a regular basis, and he's not just putting on an act, he's by far one of the biggest assholes who needs to be just have some sense knocked into him. But I can't help but think that it's all just bullshit, and that he's always being set up to act like this in front of cameras and such. So part of me doesn't buy what this episode is selling me, and it seems a little bit too coincidental that there's just that much bad blood and that he is always on. And they even reference this. He's like, oh, I'm always on, I'm always me, and whatever like that. But then you know that you're putting on an act if you say that you're always on. So it's kind of weird. But he basically just keeps saying all the stories about him aren't true, but it comes off a little defensive. Like, I wasn't kicked out of the locker room because I dress by myself because I don't talk to anybody and whatnot. He said about you can't kick me off a tour bus if I don't want to be there. That's the type of stuff where people go, you can't fire me, I quit. And you got to think of that as, if he is being himself, no wonder everybody hates him. I mean, he's eating an apple throughout the whole thing, which is a textbook trope of looking like an asshole. So either they know their writing and they said, here's an apple, eat it because you'll look like a jerk, or he really is just a jerk, and he knew that eating an apple like that would make him seem like more of an asshole. So he pulled it off, and, I buy that at the very least. Apple looked kind of good, so I guess that's a good thing. The final story to talk about here, something I alluded to earlier with the Mixed Match Challenge teams. We have all of the teams now sorted out, except for one of them, although we do sort of know exactly how that's going to go. It kind of depends a little bit. The team that we don't know is Carmella is going to be teaming up with one of the New Day members, and that's going to be based off a fan vote, which actually they say is going to be determined in the next 12 hours or so from when I'm recording this. So by the time you check this out tomorrow, if you check it out tomorrow, you'll already know which one of the New Day members is teaming with Carmella. I think, just pure speculation, I think people will end up going with Kofi, but it's a hard pick because Xavier Woods is popular, Kofi's popular, Big E's popular. It's really hard to kind of determine who would end up getting a little bit of a nudge over the other ones. I'm going to go and vote right now on the page to see if there's any kind of indication of how the poll is going right now. And to spoil things a little bit, I'm going to vote for Xavier Woods because I think that he doesn't get enough credit. So let me see if I can find that. Yes, okay. Xavier Woods right now is not winning. Right now, Big E is winning with 47%, Kofi Kingston with 31%, and Xavier Woods with 22%. So if that stays going on, then Big E and Carmella are going to be teaming up. I like that team. I like any of the New Day members pairing up with Carmella. That works. And the other teams that we have going on, I like some of them, and I like some other ones more, and some of them are a little bit disappointing. It's kind of kind of a mixed bag a little bit. We are going to break down some more details as far as like who we think are going to potentially win a little bit more later on in this week. But to give you guys a breakdown, just to keep the hot tags going a little bit: Finn Balor and Sasha Banks, Goldust and Alicia Fox, The Miz and Asuka, Apollo Crews and Nia Jax, Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss, and Elias and Bayley are on the Raw side of things. And SmackDown side of things have Shinsuke Nakamura and Natalya, Becky Lynch and Sami Zayn, Lana and Rusev, Naomi and Jimmy Uso, so both the married couples are paired off, and Bobby Roode and Charlotte Flair. On a really quick hot take, kind of, I kind of like the Raw pairings a little bit better in like an overall scope when it comes to originality. Roode and Flair is kind of like just pair the two robed people together. You know, you get the two married couples. You got Sami Zayn is a little dorky and Becky Lynch is a little dorky. The Nakamura and Natalya thing, that's just, I don't really know what the connection is there to the kind of a thing. But the Raw side is like, I wouldn't have thought The Miz and Asuka together. I wouldn't have thought Strowman and Alexa Bliss, or Elias and Bayley, and Goldust and Alicia Fox seems weird, and Balor and Banks seems weird. So the oddity kind of side of things, that goes to Raw, but I think that the teams themselves are better on SmackDown. At least right now, I do. I don't know. Maybe I'll change my mind when we record the other thing. But those are the teams. And we, as I said before, we will be talking about our predictions a little bit later on in this week. Myself and whoever else is able to join me. Maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll do like a breakdown kind of a thing, like a normal pay-per-view point. Maybe we'll try to do something a little bit different. I don't know. If you have any suggestions of what you would like to see us do as far as how to organize that, drop them in the comments below. Make sure that you do the same thing for your ideas about all these hot tags that we talked about here. And if you want to make sure that you stay tuned for any of the other things that are coming up beyond just the mixed matched challenge predictions, then hit that subscribe button on YouTube and ring the bell for notifications. If you are listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, then just follow us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment, and follow SmarkOutMoment.com's website articles itself too, and you'll be aware of anything that we do in the future. Next week, not only past the Mixed Match Challenge are we going to do the obvious hot tags, but I haven't decided on what the pay-per-view point, or not the pay-per-view point, what the main event is going to be. I'm thinking probably a Smark Announce table, a commentary track for the Royal Rumble, maybe the first Royal Rumble, because I don't think that we've done that one yet, or maybe 98. I don't think we've done 98 either, so that'd be 20 years ago. Maybe I'll just do that one. I don't know. Maybe I'll do both. But if you have any suggestions, as always, drop them in the comments below. Tell us on Twitter or anything else that you want to do like that. Start sending in those mailbag questions if you have any in mind, because we are going to get to that at the end of January. And just stay tuned for everything else. And we will see you when we see you. This has been another Smark Out moment, and I'm being counted out.